Good afternoon and welcome to BizTech's Asian Midday Market Watch, powered by the Smart Investor Singapore. It's the 16th of December and our guest for today is Phan Vee Leung, founder and CIO of Track Record Asia. V, welcome to the show.
Hey, hi, Brian. Let's talk about markets.
Yep. Well, the Dow was down 700 points overnight. Now, what's the nervousness that's surrounding investors right now?
I think right now, the investors are worried about recession. Recession fears have increased because the central banks, especially the Fed, which raised the interest rates by 50 basis points on Wednesday, has reiterated that it will continue hiking, and their new projections for interest rates next year is the peak of 5.1%, which is a lot higher than what they suggested in September. And the ECB as well is very much more hawkish than expected. So they're all talking about more interest rate increase, although we are seeing a peak, the peaking of inflation and a faster than expected drop in inflation. So I think the fears among investors is that they will continue to hike despite signs that they should be moderating their pace, or at least looking to pause at sometime soon. So instead of that, they are still determined fighting the inflation, which with the rear view mirror monster of the past. So I think because of that, markets now fear that recession is the risk of recession is increasing, and that is holding back investor sentiment for now. As well as year end, the holiday season is just around the corner. I think the risk-taking appetite is dropping as we head into less trading volumes next week.
Now, the data that's just coming out is also showing fueling the growing recession fear. So let's take Singapore's non-oil exports data that just came out this morning for November that missed estimates. Japan's December factory activity also saw its lowest since October 2020. And of course, overnight, we had the US November retail sales, which were weaker than expected. So all of this obviously adds fuel to the fire that recession is basically looming across the world. But do you see this also playing out in Asia, particularly given the fact that the contrarian view is as China opens up and unleashes its consumers, you will have, and of course, industrial activity increases as supply chains open up. You will have the Chinese consumers spending more. You will have Chinese consumers traveling, and of course, then China exporting and consuming more. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think it's natural to be hopeful that we are seeing signs of zero COVID policies ending in China. Hong Kong is opening up. Of course, hopes of boost from that front for the Asian economies is natural. But the data now we are seeing is showing past activity, right? Past activity is being held back by fears of more aggressive interest rate hikes, as well as past aggressive interest rate hikes, which is starting to impact the US economy and global economy as a result. So I think if China continues to open up, yes, of course, I think we will see a boost from that front. But for now, we are seeing the data that we're seeing is for activity of the past, and that is showing pretty much consistently across most countries that growth and economic activity is slowing down.
Now, onto something else that's worrying investors in terms of volatility in particular, the whole situation around crypto markets and contagion. The latest, obviously, is the granddaddy of them all, Binance. Tell us about the stories around that, and what should investors be watching out for?
So it's on a more overall basis, on a more global macro basis. Historically, when the Fed hiked interest rates aggressively from low levels, something breaks, right? It typically is emerging markets, and crypto is the most emerging of emerging markets, right? It's basically unregulated. There's not a lot of discipline around how these big firms are run, and of course we are still reeling from the impact of FTX, one of the biggest exchange in the world, closing down, and then the extent of the fraud that is now being revealed, right? But of course, that fallout will continue. And for now, when it's always like this, right? When there's a cockroach, everybody thinks there's going to be more cockroaches around, and of course, the fear is that the granddaddy, as you said, is going to be as a result is going to cause a lot of problems, right? So we will continue to see that, but I think Binance is one of the first to be very successful. The risk of them falling is not as high as the others because they're disciplined in what they do. But there's going to be rumors around it, and if because we don't know, right? FTX seemed that way as well for some time. But there's always a risk. This is frontier markets, this is emerging markets, this is unregulated. But we'll be hearing a lot of that until there's more clarity around how they protect themselves against withdrawals and how they protect and segregate customer deposits versus their own liabilities and trading, etc. Right?
Vee, thank you very much for your insights and have a good weekend.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Take care.
Now, we've been speaking to Phan Vee Leung, founder and CIO of Track Record Asia, on BizTech's Asian Midday Market Watch, powered by the Smart Investor Singapore. I'm Brian Fernandez. This video and podcast will be on our website, www.biztech.asia, as well as our social media platforms. It'll also be on our syndication partners, TV stations, radio stations, and websites. Thanks for tuning in.